All right, we are recording again. And there were a few things that I realized I had missed after part three. For example, on part three, I showed you how to make an item that can appear on the character, like not just in the equipment panel, but also in gameplay. And it occurred to me that I didn't actually explain how I made those animations. Basically, I took the animations of one of the ponies that I already had, Rarity in this case. I drew a very easy to see red bracelet on her, and I went frame by frame with this. And I did it both for her facing to the right and her facing to the left. And as you can see, part of the bracelet is obscured by her her left hoof on the left animations. Sometimes more than others, obviously. Anyhow, once I had all of that drawn, I copied these images over to this other side here. I erased Rarity herself, as awful as that sounds. We're just talking about graphics here. Then I narrowed down the image with these lines here so that it wouldn't swing any further right than the rightmost line. It wouldn't swing any further left than the leftmost line. In fact, it's a few pixels away from the leftmost line, and if I'd really wanted to, I could have narrowed it even more. And I have different sets of this for facing right versus facing left. I have one for each one of the frames. Then I copied these sets of animations. I created individual PNG images that are just this big. Normally I use GIFs, but this version of Paint doesn't work as well with GIFs as the XP version did. And I think I've lost the XP version, but whatever. Once I have all of those images, then I can put them into a buff, and once I have the buff, I can attach that to an equipable item, and there you go. But another thing which I forgot to mention was what happens when inventory is not shared. I mean, at the moment, you open up any character and it will show you the same starter inventory. That's Twilight's, that's Applejack's, all of that stuff. If I uncheck this box, then every playable character gets their own inventory, and rather than copying the full inventory from the shared inventory into each character's inventory, I just give it a blank slate. So just to make this interesting, let's see, I'm going to give each pony a different set of starter inventory. I'm going to give Twilight 15 purple boots. Let's see, what else? Oh, before I forget, I alphabetized the item names. I just got sick of having no rhyme or reason to it, and now, there's actual rhyme and reason to it. It's alphabetical. So let's see. Purple Rain Hood. It's all the purple stuff for her. Let's see. Purple Rain Slicker. Let's see, what else can I do? Purple Saddle Umbrella. I'm giving these items high counts for a very good reason. You will see what that reason is once I show you this in the actual game. And let's add some standard items. Let's add some amethysts. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough to say if you hold down the plus button, make this number rise very quickly. But oh well. Maybe next time. Let's see. Tanzanites are also purple. At least they are with this game. In reality, Tanzanites are more blue. They were going to call it blue zoisite, but Zoisite sounds a little bit too much like suicide for it to be marketable, so the gem company that was mining these decided, let's just name the gem after the country we got it from, Tanzania. It's this country in Africa. So that's Twilight's starter inventory. This doesn't affect the starting equipment, by the by. For Applejack, let's see. We want to add some citrines here. There we go. If I can get this window into the recording space, there we go. And another standard item. Citrine going the other way. You know, I don't really need any more than this to show you what's going on, so I'll save this and show you what it looks like in the game. Alright, we are recording again. Her inventory too, she's got nothing. Fluttershy, same story, although she's still looking like this. Applejack, by contrast, has... oh my goodness, apparently I screwed this up. She's got 20 standard gems and... what? What is this? Examine. Standard gemstone, null. Okay, that is definitely some type of bug. A standard gemstone, null. Okay, I'm going to have to look into this before I actually put this out there, but I can still demonstrate what I started this video to demonstrate, which is, oh, now that I think about it, these are correct and showing the right number, and these aren't. Anyhow, the thing that I wanted to demonstrate is the ability to move items from one character's inventory to another. If I drag this down to Applejack, then this pop-up appears. It says give 15 all, give none, cancel. You can click on these buttons to decide how many you give to Applejack. I'll give 2 pairs of these boots to Applejack, and voila, 2 pairs exist right there. If you only drag one item to, say, Rainbow Dash's inventory, what the heck? Nothing happens? Well, that's interesting. Apparently I have some more fixing to do. That's very embarrassing. But when an item is stacked like this, you can decide to give a certain number of them to a character, or you can give all of them to the character. Give none just simply cancels the transfer. But there is another option. You see this share with party button? If you do that, then what the game will do is it'll go round robin. It'll give 1 umbrella to Rarity, 1 to Fluttershy, 1 to Pinky, 1 to Twilight, 1 to AJ, 1 to Rainbow Dash, 1 to Rarity. It'll keep going round robin until it's out of umbrellas. So if I click share with party, Twilight should have probably about 2 of them. Rarity should have 3. Now that's unusual. The fact that she doesn't have any at this point is eerie. Okay, there are definitely some pretty big bugs going on around here. I may not actually publish this video, at least not until I fix the bugs. We shall see. Alright, we are once again recording. This is the exact same file, and I have fixed that particular bug. So, one thing that you'll notice is that it's properly giving a background for these larger numbers. So let's see what happens when I take one of these gems and try to move it down here and share with the party. This is actually inspired by another game that I have played called Betrayal at Krondor. You could give all the items to one character, you could share them with party, and it would go round robin. And these buttons here are basically the same buttons that Betrayal at Krondor would use to increase or decrease the number of items that you are giving to a given character. None is cancel. Max it out, and you can give all of them to a Rarity. You know, I'll just try that and prove out that it works. Yep, now Rarity's got them all. You can even drag it to yourself, and you have the option of sharing it. Well, let's see what happens when I do this. It should be nothing and nothing happened. But if you go share with party, then each pony should get 6 of these citrines. Rarity's got 6, Fluttershy has 6, Pinky 6, Dashy 6, AJ 6, Twilight 6. And you can give just one item to Rarity here and she can give it back, no problem. And let's just make sure that things work the way I'm expecting them to work. So, put this here. Works perfectly. Drag it back down. There it is. Drag it back. Working like a charm. So that's how you move items from one character to another character with this game. At least when you have unshared inventory. I personally plan to have shared inventory in the final game. It's really up to the game designer whether you have shared inventory in your games or not. This is designed to be flexible, and I'm going to be adding more flexibility to it as time goes on when I add things like custom playable character abilities or custom attacks for NPCs. That's this thing's strength, its flexibility. There's, in fact, about 4 or 5 different things I'd love to do with this game engine that have nothing to do with ponies. I mean, I still want to finish the pony games in its multiple volumes. I'd love it if I could submit this to Hasbro and get it approved as a canon work, but, well, that doesn't negate the fact that this game engine has a lot of potential and I could end up using it for a lot of things besides this. Anyways, before I close out altogether, there's something else I wanted to show you guys. These are the icons for classic elements. There's a bunch of different categories of icons in this game. This is the actual size. Well, who am I kidding? You could be viewing this on any size viewing device. It's just all over the place. But anyways, I'm just blowing this up so that it's easier to see it. I've decided to have some rhyme and reason to the way these icons are displayed. Fire's up top, lightning beneath it, ice is over on the right here, and this is actually where some items, or I should say some icons, are sort of merged. This one is a frost fire icon with fire on one side and ice on the other. This one is combining the 3 classic elements of fire, ice, and lightning. And of course, I've got a lot of other classic elements. I've got water right next to ice here. I've got air next to that. Plant life right next to air, and way over on the left here I've got the earth element. Right beneath water I've got poison. There's so many different ways to depict poisons. I mean, it's never the same from one game to another. In some games it's a skull, in some games it's bubbles. I think in Final Fantasy VI they went a little unorthodox and made it a vial. Anyways, next to that we have healing. And, you know, I stopped making them vertical at this point. I mean, some of these are vertical, some of these are horizontal. These last 3 are horizontal. There's pure magic, which a lot of games call arcane. There's holy here, and there's, I guess you could call it shadow or evil. You know, pick your poison there. Well, that isn't poison, this is poison. This is shadow/evil. The funny thing is, for the holy here, I have a cross that is both reflectionally symmetrical across the y-axis and across the x-axis. And when I looked it up, thick crosses that are like that are actually very much like the real crosses that real orders of knights used in medieval times. So this will fit in perfectly with that kind of fantasy. But if you're not looking for that kind of fantasy specifically, then an Ankh is a good second choice. There's a lot of games that use Ankh in place of a cross when they are creating holy elements. World of Warcraft is one of them. Actually, World of Warcraft uses both. The Ankh is actually an Egyptian symbol, but it looks so much like a cross that people often use it for their games. But if you're looking for something even more non-denominational than that, I've got this. I call it Starlight. Technically Starlight True because it's the second version of this. Any one of them will work. I'm pretty proud of these vortexes too. And you don't have to use these icons the way I have them laid out here. You can have this one mean arcane. You can have the pitchfork mean piercing damage or something like that. You can use these how you like. Again, flexibility is the name of the game. But I've got a lot of categories of icons besides this. I'm going to try to go through them in alphabetical order. The first one is alphanumeric. It's kind of self-explanatory here, except for the conditions under which you'd actually want to use these. I figure that if you've got a buff that's got some type of progression going on, and you want to display that progression, like with a countdown or something, or, I don't know, maybe with other forms that a boss can take or something like that, these will be perfect for that. I'm planning to have it possible to make these icons appear and flash and do that kind of thing during gameplay. Anyways, that's one option. That's one set of icons you can pick from. The next one is artifacts. These are man-made objects that don't appear in nature. An anvil, a bell, books. At least at the beginning, this was in alphabetical order, but as I added more stuff, as I thought of it, it ceased to be in alphabetical order. There's a broom, there's a water droplet, there's soap, at least that's supposed to be soap, paperclip, silverware, needle and thread, mallet, a syringe, a kite, balloon, snowman. Yeah, some of this stuff was inspired specifically by other games. I was going through my head. Let's see. In my head, I was going over games that have a lot of different elements in them. There was Pokemon, obviously. You'll see that more and more as we go on, especially once we get into the nature category. There's the Kingdom Hearts series, where Organization 13, each member had a different element associated with them, at least with the first Organization 13. There's also the Kirby series, where he has a bunch of different copy abilities. Not all of them are elemental per se, but a lot of them are. And I wanted at least one icon for each of those. That's why the broom is there. That's why this pill is there. You'll see more of this kind of thing when we get to technology. Moving right along, before I do move on, I'd like to point out this is a towel here. So, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, welcome home. This next one is body parts. These are parts of a human or animal's body. There's the brain here. That would work for psychic attacks or for buffs to intellect. There's a cracked bone, an eye, another good one for psychic stuff, a feather, which obviously that's for flying Pokemon. The boot, perfect for jump attacks if you're doing a Super Mario RPG fan game, but not sure why you'd use this engine for that. Oh, right, because of the flexibility. There's jaws here, there's a mouth, a paw. Some of these were actually inspired by debuffs from the Earthbound series. For example, the nose was something that I thought of for a character getting a cold. That was one of the debuffs in Earthbound. So was nausea, which is why I added a stomach. A couple of other body parts. There's the skull, obviously. There's a tooth, lungs, a beard, hair. This is supposed to be a pony's tail. This is supposed to be a tentacle. There's a fist here that would be perfect for fighting type damage. And there's an arm that's flexing here. That's meant to represent strength. That could be used for strength buffs, but it could also be used for fighting type, I suppose. Moving right along, we've already done classic elements. Debuffs. I know that once I get playable character abilities and NPC abilities, I know that I'm going to want to be able to apply debuffs to NPCs, and I know I want to be able to apply debuffs to characters. So there's some stuff that you'd expect. There's poisoning, there's silence here. This is an X over a mouth, so it's supposed to be silence. There's a stun effect here, dizzy, petrification, armor penetration. This torn cloak is meant to represent decreased magic resistance. This flower vine is meant to represent entanglement. There's sleep here, obviously, confusion, disease. Some of these are a little bit more generic than others. For example, these sparkles, that could mean drain on your mana. It could also mean dazzled. This is the first version of my starlight icon. And then I put some stuff in here that could mean any old thing. The X, the no sign, the minus sign, the exclamation mark, those could mean just about anything. The splat here, that could mean just about anything. This one's supposed to be knocked prone. This one, these drops, depending on their color, they could mean quite a few different things. I mean, if it's red, then it could mean that this is a bleed effect. If it's purple or green, it could mean that it's a poison effect. If it's yellow, we don't talk about that. If it's blue, it could mean that they're soaked. There's games that use soaking wet as a debuff because it makes you more vulnerable to being frozen or the like. This ghost could either mean fear or it could mean intangibility. The list goes on. This is designed to be versatile. The next on the list is equipment. I think I showed you this one when I was showing equipment slots, so I guess there's no point in going over it again. This next one is food. At first, I was going to... Man, that looks ugly. At this zoom, it looks ugly to me. But anyways, at first I was just going to have one icon per food group. An apple for fruit, a drumstick for protein, slice of bread for grains, I think it was a radish for vegetables, a wedge of cheese here for dairy, and then a hard candy for oils and sweets. But after I created items, the items layer, and had cherries, I realized I had to have that in here. And in fact, I should probably be expanding this outwards, and you could see there was a lot of bloat here. I start with the 5 Pac-Man fruits. I mean, obviously this is just a slice of watermelon instead of a whole melon. Then I have some other fruits. There's berries, grapes, a peach, pear, lemon, which could also be a lime, depending. Then some more exotic stuff: a pomegranate, mango, kiwi, durian, coconut. Pretty much the fruits are up top, and as you go down, you'll see other food groups. Grains are down here. Protein is towards the middle here. At the dead center, there's pizza, which is kind of where all the food groups meet. And in fact, I think some game somewhere jokingly said that pizza is the fifth element after fire, water, earth, and air. There's dairy here. The bottom left has beverages, soda, lemonade. I just call this a drink glass. There's coffee, then a couple of flasks. Soup is here. Sometimes I couldn't quite figure out where to put it. Like, this is a pickle here. I mean, you make that out of a cucumber, but still. And in the bottom right, there's some sweets. There's cake, cupcake, the hard candies there, graham cracker, marshmallow, chocolate, cookie, lollipop, ice cream way at the bottom. Can't do this without ice cream. Geometric is by far the smallest one. I guess part of the reason why I have geometric is so that if someone decides to use the game engine or create a game mechanic within the game engine that's all about color, they'll be able to pick from these and the colors will be instantly recognizable. And I don't know why, but in my head, I associate the octagon with red, hexagon with orange, circle with yellow, triangle with green, square with blue, pentagon with purple. I don't know why I have that association in my head. Anyways, there's other things that you can do with this stuff. For example, this hollow sphere with a sort of a wire on it, that'd be perfect for a space element. That's, again, from Organization 13. There's a cube that's hollow up here, and there's a filled-in one down here. Cone, cylinder, pyramid, spiral. I sort of made the boundaries a little bit more obvious by adding white inside them. With a square, I did that more than once. Maybe I should take that out. I don't know. The next one is nature. If there's an element that you think should be classic and it doesn't appear under classic elements, it's probably here. We got the sun and the moon. We got a few different types of weather here. We've got tons more plant icons. A few of these icons were rejected plant life icons from the custom animation panel, like the tulip here and the cactus here. Part of the reason why I have so many different plants here is because I wanted to be able to express different types of terrain. Like the desert could be this cactus, tundra could be this evergreen tree, deciduous forest, rainforest or a beach area, swamp, grasslands. You get the idea. There's also a couple of volcano icons here. There's a sand icon, dust cloud. There's a crystal. There's poop. That exists in nature. There's some mountains here. There's the volcanoes. There's an atom towards the center. There's a few of these that also appear on classic elements. There's a giant bubble, which originally was going to be one of the air icons, but I decided that a gust of wind was better. There's ripples here, spiderweb, egg, which probably was also under food. There's a dragonfly. Obviously, that was inspired by bug-type Pokemon. So was the feather. Let's see, what all else do I have? I think the next one is Other. This is a category of icons where I couldn't think what else to do with them. Where else to put them, I should say. This is another, this grid here, which sort of vanishes towards a point, or I should say, well, yeah, I guess it does have a vanishing point. This was another one that was meant to represent the fabric of space. There's clockwise and counterclockwise, which eventually got copied to the Symbols tab. There's some emotions, some furniture. I forget why I have chess pieces. I guess it's because I just really like chess motifs. There's a couple of rejected sun icons that didn't make it to the nature tab. There's some spikes. There's also a few that are inspired by Pokemon. Pokemon isn't my only inspiration for this. I also drew inspiration from World of Warcraft. That's one of the reasons why I had a Frostfire icon on classic elements and why I had an icon for all three elements. There's a few, or I should say there have been a few attacks in World of Warcraft that combine elements together. There was a Frostfire bolt once upon a time, and there was an elemental blast that I think Shaman have that combine nature damage, which includes lightning, as well as fire and frost. Anyways, I also drew inspiration from the pet battle system in World of Warcraft, and dragon is one of the types of pets, so when you combine that with the fact that dragon is one of the types of Pokemon, I knew I had to have it. Same story with fairy, which, now that I think about it, there are no fairies in World of Warcraft. They're going to change that with Shadowlands, but there is a fairy type for Pokemon, so I had to have it. And this one is Stench. At least it's supposed to be. I could see someone using it for a mist that obscures your vision or something like that, but it was actually Kingdom of Loathing that made me think of this. Stinky is one of the attack types there, so I just went with it. Next comes Shoot 'em Up powers. Since the game is, at least at the moment, a shoot-'em-up platformer with RPG elements, I figured I need to have some shoot-'em-up abilities in this. So I have a single shot, double shot, triple shot, quadruple shot, Eventually, you'd expect 5 shots would be the next natural progression, but one of these has to be a giant shot, so I just put that one up here. If you want a quintuple shot, this one will deliver, but it's a spread shot. This one is another spread shot, but it's just 3. This one is a shot that goes forward and one that goes backward. Totally inspired by the split P from Plants vs. Zombies. This I call cardinal shot. It fires directly up and down when you fire forward. I don't know if there's ever going to be anything like that in my game, but oh well. This is supposed to be rapid fire. Some of these were inspired by Metroid, actually. This is the wave beam. This one, it's supposed to be a piercing shot that pierces through multiple enemies. This is kind of this Death Blossom thing. Actually, it's inspired by an ability from the Centipede 3D game. Bouncing shot. Let's see, I think these are 2 different powers from Gradius. They have one shot that spreads diagonally upward and another power-up that drops something downward. So, twice as much effort for the power. This one is inspired by Contra. I think they have some spinning fireballs in that game. This is a straight-up beam. Then you got a bunch of aimers and some power-ups that would make sense for a vehicle, like a dropped bomb, radar, speed boost. Well, actually, that could work for more than just a vehicle. Wingmen, that's inspired by a game called Kilo Blaster. Kilo Blaster. That's... You can go to classicreload.com and see what that one is. It's like this old school space shooter game for DOS. And of course we've got Fuel here. The next one is Symbols, and it's probably the largest category that I have. I just kept getting ideas for what to add to it. I mean, I have the cardinal directions, I've got card suits, mathematical things. I've got question mark and exclamation mark. I have some hazard symbols over here. I've got musical symbols, yes and no. Originally, if you wanted religious symbols for a holy element, you had to go all the way to symbols for it, or geometric. Eventually, I decided, you know what, I just need to copy it over to classic elements. The yin yang is here under symbols. That's again inspired by World of Warcraft. They have a type of damage called Twilight damage, combines Holy and Shadow into one. That would be the perfect icon for that particular one. Then there's some miscellaneous stuff here, the light bulb, power, male, hand. After that, I'm not sure why, maybe it's just because I thought the astronomical symbols were cool. I added astronomical symbols for the sun through Pluto. I haven't added the minor planet symbols. I probably should at some point, considering everything that I've got, or maybe I shouldn't just because it's already too long. Another interesting thing is that there's more than one symbol for Uranus and there's more than one symbol for Pluto. When I was a kid, my parents had this giant National Geographic atlas, and for some reason in the middle of that atlas there's a bunch of astronomical stuff, and what I saw was that the symbol for Uranus was this. It's like a combination of Mars' symbol and the Sun symbol. I think that was deliberate. And Pluto's symbol was this, a P and an L glommed together. But then when I look elsewhere, I see this H symbol. I think that's naming it after Herschel, the astronomer who discovered Uranus. And this, I have no idea what it is, but it's apparently supposed to represent Pluto. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to throw them both in there. And then after that, we've got some currency symbols. Dollars, pesos, euros, pounds, yen, yuan. This is supposed to be the Kenyan shilling. Another one of those African countries like Tanzania. I think this is the Turkish lira. Let's see, is this the Indian rupee? I believe so. Yes, rupees are a real type of currency. They didn't just make it up for Legend of Zelda. Russian ruble, and I think this is the Swiss franc. There's probably more currency symbols in existence, but we have gone far enough with those, or I think I have. So now we get to technology. This is stuff... Eventually the artifacts category got to be so big, I felt the need to split some stuff off. And there's some stuff in here that's directly inspired by Kirby. The plane and the UFO, totally inspired by Kirby. There's some stuff that's specifically for computers here. There's an oil can. There's a diskette. This is actually a 5.5-inch floppy diskette. When I was little, like really little, we had this Apple II computer, and it used these kinds of diskettes. And there was 128 kilobytes on those, and that was enough to hold both the program that the computer was supposed to run and the operating system the program ran on. Figure that out. There's a computer chip here and metal ingot. Actually, there's a lot of different things that would work perfectly for Steel-type Pokemon. The gear would work, the magnet would work, the ingot would work, the anvil would work, saw blade would work. You know, the sky's the limit here. The drill would be good for ground-type Pokemon. So would the sand icon from the nature category, now that I think about it. There's also a lever here that's in 3 different positions. And this, is the word the fulcrum? Yeah, I think this fulcrum is the right word. The fulcrum is in the same place, so theoretically you could use this to describe multiple different positions of controls. The wheel was another one alongside the jet and the UFO that was totally inspired by the Kirby series. What else do we have? Okay, treasure. This contains a bunch of different cuts of gems. The ingot is back. There's a lock, a couple of different types of keys. There's a trophy. Pretty much if it appeared on the equipment slot and it was some type of jewelry, it'll appear here too. There's a diamond, which that would actually be another good one for rock-type Pokemon. There's a bundle of cash. There's a safe here. Treasure chest. A couple of different stacks of coins. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here for treasure. And once again, if you're focusing on color for your game, then this would be another great way to differentiate the colors. You could have a heart-shaped ruby, you could have a crystal that is orange, you could have this round one represent yellow, you could have this be an emerald that's green, you could have this be a sapphire, you could pick any one of these for amethyst and make it purple. A lot of possibilities there. This next one is weapons. And again, some of them were inspired by Kirby. The whip, I added that specifically for Kirby. There's a torpedo here, laser gun, dropped bomb. Some of these are familiar. Other things have more of a fantasy bent to them. Like this sword here, for example, and the axe, those are fantasy weapons. The trident is back. You can use this to represent an evil element, but you can also use it to represent pole arms or piercing damage or the like. The drill's back. There's a cannon. There's a dagger here. I think I actually call it a knife, but there's a bow and a crossbow, a rifle, pistol. If Hasbro complains about these things existing in the game engine, I'll just ask them if I should make it look like the revolver from Clue. There's a bomb there. That would actually be perfect for siege damage if we're going to take Warcraft 3 damage types into account. There's a staff, if I haven't already mentioned it. Wand, shuriken. Again, that's straight out of Kirby. So's the boomerang, now that I think about it. Let's see, what's next? Actually, I think weapon is the last one. There's ammunition here. Arrows. Both multiple arrows and a single arrow. There's some spikes. The shield is here as well. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. Probably I'm going to add more icons as time goes on, as more of them occur to me. But for this release, it's just going to be the icons that I've shown so far. I guess that's about all I want to cover. This video is already way longer than I was expecting it to be.